The other huge thing we've got to do is think about how we're spending our money in Illinois especially, but around America. The money should be in the classroom with the teachers, with technology, with the infrastructure, in the classroom, with the students and with the teachers, not in the bureaucracy. We in Illinois especially, but many states around America, the layers and layers of administrators and vice presidents and junior whatevers, and we have a lot of layers that consumes the money. The money should be in the classroom, with the teachers, with the technology, and in the facilities. Critical. And that's true for college. You should see the bureaucracy and the overhead that's gone on in our college system. It's outrageous. Same thing in our community colleges, although to a lesser degree, but still a problem there. And it's a huge problem in K-12 education. We've got to change that. Our agenda is really about empowering parents, homeowners, local voters to get more control of the schools and of their local property taxes and what goes on in their government so that we can hold our schools more accountable. I don't know how many of you really know the situation in Illinois in detail, but the Illinois Standardized Test, the ISAT, was a travesty. It's a good thing it's gone. It was one of the lowest, weakest state standardized tests in America. For what should have been one of the greatest states, the proudest, highest income state, we had a travesty as a test. And it got dummied down a couple times over the last 15 plus years with our CUT scores to make it look like our students and our schools were getting better when they weren't. It's, frankly, well, I won't go into it. It gets me too upset. But it's a travesty. It's good that it's gone. We now have this new park system in. I don't know yet how I feel about it. I'm worried it's going to get politicized and dummied down and manipulated and whatever. I don't know. And I certainly don't want the federal government controlling our curriculum in our classrooms. That should be locally controlled. But we do need a consistent, rigorous, objective way to measure student growth. We can't truly hold our schools accountable if we don't measure growth. Right now, we make what little we do measure is at a level. We say, well, if the students in a certain school score at a certain level on a test, if they score high, it's a good school. If they score pretty low, it's a bad school. Baloney, wrong, fundamentally flawed. It matters where the student comes in and where they leave. And if they're coming in 3 years behind and they leave 1 year behind, compare that to a school where the kids come in 6 months ahead and leave 6 months behind. The second school is regarded as the better school because they're only 6 months behind when they graduate, not a year behind. You know what? No. It's how did those students move while they're in that school or with that particular teacher. That's what matters. And we need to objectively measure that. Now, I've pushed it for ACT in high school, the ACT battery in 9th through 12th grade, and NWEA K to 8. I recommended that to CPS. We spent almost $1 million of ours, mine, and other people's money to put in a system developed in partnership with educators from around Chicago. Chicago was about to have one of the most rigorous student growth measures of anywhere in America. Very, very well thought out, rigorous. We could get rid of a lot of the other tests and the other baloney and focus, test in September, test in May, short, simple, every year, see how we're moving over time. And you know what? A large group of us met with the senior executives at CPS to begin to roll the system out. You know what a senior officer CPS said to us? And I've got witnesses. They said, gosh, Mr. Rauner, this is a really powerful system. This is very interesting, but you know what? I'm not sure we're going to do this. And I said, why? And they said, well, if we did this for the first time, parents in Chicago would really understand what's going on in the schools. They'd be upset. They'd demand better schools and better results, and we can't deliver that, so we're going to get them upset for really no good reason. So we're not going to do this. Think about that. Think about that. We all talk about excellence. We talk about accountability. We use these broad, general words. That's accountability, and that is avoidance of what really serves parents and serves the children, and a refusal to do it. We have a broken system that's not working for the parents, it's not working for the taxpayers, it's working for, listen, I love teachers, teachers union. You know what? The schools don't belong to the teachers union. They have a voice, they should have a voice. The schools don't belong to the teachers union, they belong to the parents and the taxpayers of the system. That's where the power should be, that's where the decisions should be made. And we've got to change that whole conversation in Illinois. and in many other states. The power should be with the people, with the parents, the homeowners, the taxpayers, and the kids, not with the teachers union. That's a big change, but we got to get the power back where it belongs.
In light of the federal investigation into Chicago Public Schools, CEO Barbara Byrd Bennett and the Soups contract, and the fact that that company was first brought to Chicago thanks to the Fund for Public Education, what kind of role do you think that education foundations or nonprofits should be having in the direction of state education policy?
Let's back up for a second. Illinois and Chicago have a long, long, sordid history of insider dealing and corruption and conflict of interest. We've had 4 out of our last 9 governors go to prison. I don't know how many of you know that. That's what my youngest daughter, we had a big fight in my family when I was thinking about running 3 years ago. Should Dad do this, or was going to get knife in the back and mud in the face every day? My youngest daughter, 13 years old, she says, Daddy, don't run for governor. I don't want you to go to jail. We've had elected officials go to prison. I could give you a list right now of conflicts of interest going on. That particular group, which I don't know anything about, was brought in, I believe, by the CEO of the schools. It wasn't brought in by the fund, by the foundation. I don't know.
It was first brought in by the fund, which you're a part of and you've been a part of historically.
I believe that Barbara had worked there before. She had worked for that group. So anyway, but let me finish the point. I believe in public-private partnerships. I believe that there can be private capital brought to assist government in turning itself around. I think that's a good thing. And my experience with the Public Education Fund has been mostly good. Although I will say this, the fund didn't make many of its own decisions as much as it was a facilitator for what the mayor or the school's leadership wanted to do. It was a little bit more of a support group rather than a truly independent group, and that was a source of frustration for me over time. But the investigation, I hope that the potential wrongdoing that I've read about didn't occur. I don't know, but I hope anybody who did wrongdoing gets fully prosecuted.
You mentioned the German system and how they track students at an early age. What also makes it work is the fact that they have much higher taxes. So I'm wondering, would you support higher taxes to make college, one, more affordable or even free at the community college level?
I support competitive taxes. Competitive. And that means it's the state of Illinois, look at the other states around America, look at what they tax, what they don't tax, look at our relative competitiveness. Because frankly, we cannot tax our way to prosperity. Not possible. We also cannot cut our way to prosperity. I'm having to cut right now because my duty as governor was to submit a budget with no new taxes and with the existing revenue, and that's what we've done. And we're going to bring financial discipline to our system. We've been spending money that we haven't had for years and years. The real key is to grow our way to prosperity. The Germans have figured out how to compete and how to grow, where to strategically invest. Illinois has got to do the same thing. We have got to grow. Right now, we're one of the worst states in America for job creation. We've had real family incomes falling for years. And we will never fund our schools, we will never fund our pensions unless we grow. And we're not growing. And so our taxes need to fund the critical services, but we need to grow and be competitive. If our taxes aren't competitive, we won't be growing. Now, one thing I'll say, despite our financial crisis and a huge deficit, I am personally committed to raising state support for education. And in our budget, we're cutting billions of dollars. We're increasing state support for education by over $300 million. Very proud of that. And my personal commitment and our administration's commitment is to make education the top priority when we spend taxpayer dollars. Big difference. Education in Illinois has been cut for years. And let me say this, hopefully all of you are aware of this. Illinois is dead last. 50 out of 50. We're number 50 of all the states for state general revenue support for education. That's a travesty, and we're going to change that.
I was wondering what your feelings are. You mentioned that you wanted accountability, but you did not want a factory line. And
did not want what? I'm sorry?
You did not want teachers to be subjected to a factory line. You did not want them to be
Well, we treat them more like, right, yeah, right.
Right. So I was wondering, how do you think we can hold schools accountable on a local level, but still ensure that all students receive the same opportunity if we are getting local taxes and
well, it's a great question, and this is the key. I am committed to increasing state support for education, and I want to focus it aggressively on the lowest income districts. The lowest income districts should get the priority for taxpayer-funded money from the state, much more than we do today, because education's the shot for every student's chance at the American dream. Every student deserves an equal shot at the American dream. That's a critical fundamental belief I have and that our administration has. We need equal quality. Now let me say something else. Chicago often pleads lack of money, and Chicago is suffering from lack of quality, and believe me, Chicago Public Schools still has terrible quality. We like to run around and say, oh, we've transformed it and it's all better. It's still woeful. These kids deserve so much better. The simple fact is Chicago spends way more than the average school district spends in the state of Illinois. Chicago gets and spends a lot of money on education. It doesn't get spent the right way. It doesn't get put in the classroom with the teachers. It gets spent on bureaucracy. A lot of CPS for years was run as a patronage operation. It wasn't run as an education system. It was run as a political patronage operation. We in Illinois blend our politics and our governance in a way that most states don't. That's where we get our corruption from and our conflicts of interest from. The money should go in the classroom with the teachers, not into other stuff and the layers of bureaucracy. Also, for example, here in Illinois, when we build a school, we're not allowed to competitively bid the construction on it. We have to pay a certain wage, and only certain firms can contract to build the school. And it costs us 20%, 30%, 35% more for every classroom we build than it would otherwise spend if we could competitively bid it. That's wrong. It's not fair to taxpayers, and it's not fair to school children, because we could build 25% more high-quality classrooms if we could be more efficient with the tax dollars for every dollar we spend. So we've got to change that process. Again, government in Illinois, the insiders control it for their own benefit. The taxpayers and the school children and the parents are on the outside. That's that power structure where we're going to change in the state.
And if I could add on to the governor's answer, I think if you look at his entire turnaround agenda and you look at the proliferation of government, we have over 850 school districts. We have school districts with 250 children. And when you look at those levels of government and the money that is taking away from the classroom, your idea of if we could get that money into the hands of principals and into the hands of teachers, that's a much more effective and efficient manner. And part of what, as the governor is talking about his turnaround agenda, it is very much aligned with best practices and putting money down into the classroom. So I think another thing the governor is asking me to do and his entire team to do is to look not just at our own area, but also look across areas so that every decision that's made, that in the end will bring more money to teachers, to principals, and to school boards so that local control is there. But those areas of education should not be. To have over 850 school districts in a state of this size just makes no sense.
We have 7,000 units of government in Illinois. Did you know that? 7,000 units of government, double what the average state has. Hello, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money in pensions and patronage and cronyism and the brother-in-law getting the deal that could go into the classroom with the teachers. We have 2,000 more units of government than the number 2 state. Hello. There's a lot to be done to put the money with the teachers in the classroom.